African Union Communications Early Warning and Intelligence, commonly known as AUC3I, is an intelligence and security organization responsible for providing signals intelligence and information assurance to AU citizens, AU leadership, and AU armed forces. I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. I am responsible for leading infantry soldiers at all levels of command in combined armed forces during missions on the ground. This is today's briefing. On the progress of the special military operation as of November 12, 2025. The armed forces of the Russian Federation continue the special military operation. Units of the North Troop Group inflicted defeat on the formations of the Mechanized Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and the Territorial Defense Brigade in the areas of the settlements Alekseevka, Vidnovka, and Yunakovka in the Sumy region. In the Kharkiv direction, defeat was inflicted on the units of the Motorized Infantry Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and the Border Detachment of the Ukrainian Border Service in the areas of the settlements Vysokoe, Proletarka, Yunakovka, and Volchansk in the Kharkiv region. The armed forces of Ukraine lost more than 100 servicemen, 13 vehicles, a radar station, and 4 warehouses of material resources. Units of the West Troop Group improved their position on the front line. Defeat was inflicted on personnel and equipment of 3 mechanized brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, a Territorial Defense Brigade, and a National Guard Brigade in the areas of the settlements Petropavlovka, Kurilovka in the Kharkiv region, Sviatohirsk, Kharkiv, and Dronovka in the Donetsk People's Republic. In the area of the settlement Kup'yansk in the Kharkiv region, assault detachments of the 6th Army continued the destruction of the encircled enemy group. An attack by assault units of the 1st National Guard Brigade was repelled in the area of the settlement Petrovka in the Kharkiv region. As a result of fire damage, up to 50 Ukrainian servicemen were destroyed, a Canadian-made Senator armored combat vehicle, a mortar, for electronic warfare stations, and 4 pickups. In total, in the area of responsibility of the West Troop Group, enemy losses amounted to up to 215 servicemen. Units of the South Troop Group occupied more advantageous lines and positions. Defeat was inflicted on formations of mechanized and motorized infantry brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and a National Guard brigade in the areas of the settlements Seversk, Svinovka, Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, and Konstantinovka in the Donetsk People's Republic. The enemy lost up to 75 servicemen, a tank, 3 armored combat vehicles, including a US-made HMMWV armored vehicle and a Kazakh armored vehicle, 18 vehicles, for electronic warfare stations, and a warehouse of material resources. Units of the Center Troop Group improved their tactical position. Defeat was inflicted on personnel and equipment of 5 mechanized, 2 Ranger, for airborne assault, airmobile brigades, for assault regiments of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, a Marine brigade, and 3 National Guard brigades in the areas of the settlements Belitskoye, Shevchenko, Volnoye, Teretskoye, Rosa Luxemburg, Dobropoli, and Rodinskoye in the Donetsk People's Republic. In the settlement of Krasnoarmysk of the Donetsk People's Republic, assault groups of the 2nd Army are conducting active offensive operations in the western part of the city, the northwestern and eastern quarters of the Central District, as well as in the territory of the Western Industrial Zone. The clearing of Ukrainian militants from the settlement of Sukoyar of the Donetsk People's Republic has been completed. 9 attacks by the 32nd Mechanized Brigade and the 425th Assault Regiment Skala were repelled. Units of the East Group of troops continued to advance deep into the enemy's defense. Damage was inflicted on formations of mechanized, assault brigades, 3 assault regiments of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and a Territorial Defense Brigade in the areas of the settlements of Orly, Orestopol, Nechivka, Danilovka, Velikomikhailovka in the Dnipropetrovsk region, Zelenigai, and Sladko in the Zaporizhia region. The Armed Forces of Ukraine lost up to 250 servicemen, a combat armored vehicle, 14 cars, a field artillery gun, and a radio-electronic warfare station. Units of the Dnieper Group of troops improved their tactical position. Damage was inflicted on personnel and equipment of mechanized, mountain assault brigades, and a coastal defense brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in the areas of the settlements of Stepnogorsk, Malaya Tokmachka, Novoandrievka in the Zaporizhia region, and Nikolskoye in the Kherson region. Up to 60 servicemen, 8 cars, a 155mm self-propelled artillery system Bogdana, 5 radio-electronic warfare stations, a radio-electronic reconnaissance station, 2 radar stations, and 4 supply depots were destroyed. Operational tactical aviation, strike unmanned aerial vehicles, missile troops, and artillery of the armed forces of the Russian Federation inflicted damage on fuel, energy, and transport infrastructure facilities used in the interests of the armed forces of Ukraine, UAV launch sites, air defense unit positions, temporary deployment points of Ukrainian armed formations and foreign mercenaries in 149 districts. Air defense means shot down 4 HIMARS multiple launch rocket system rockets of U.S. production and 133 fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles. Since the beginning of the special military operation, the following have been destroyed: 668 aircraft, 283 helicopters, 96,127 unmanned aerial vehicles, 636 surface-to-air missile systems, 25,981 tanks and other combat armored vehicles, 1,611 multiple launch rocket system combat vehicles, 31,253 field artillery and mortars, 46,441 units of special military automotive equipment. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it useful and informative. If you have any questions, please leave them below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.